At this point, the two sides either agree to keep talking or there's a strike, or Congress could step in. The Railway Labor Act gives Congress, and by the way, only Congress, the power to keep those trains moving. And we just so happen to have a member of Congress who is on the Labor Committee here at the table. I'm glad you're here talking about these issues in particular because, look, I mean, when you think about it, first of all, many people might not realize, Congressman, that this strike potentially is going to impact all of our lives. The numbers are already there. Tell me, do you anticipate that Congress is going to step in some way if this actually comes to that this Friday?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think what you often find in these cases just happened in where I come from in Madison, Wisconsin. SEIU and the UW Health reached agreement the morning of the start of a strike date. Often you need deadlines, just like Congress needs deadlines to get both parties to really put their best offer. In this case, there's two unions left that don't have agreements. It's over unpaid time off for being sick, not even sick pay, just unpaid time. And the companies have rolled back staffing over the last several years and made it really tough. I mean, these are 12-hour shifts, and you're on call at any given time. I think unions are at a 60-year high right now. I'm a union member 3 decades, International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. I think if people understand that workers have not been getting the right efforts to get what they really deserve for a long time. Under the Trump era, we watch all these rollbacks of the National Labor Relations Board and other rules. People support workers, and there is international inflation. There's no question across the globe. At the same time, we want workers to be treated fairly, and I think at the end of the day, there will be resolution to this. I don't think you need Congress to step in, but I'm glad to see organizing with Starbucks workers, with Amazon workers, with RAI, all these other areas that haven't been organized before. This is a moment for workers to have their voices be heard about their working conditions, the safety conditions, and their pay and benefits. And I support the railroad workers right now.
I mean, I think you're right. Theoretically, of course, that everyone wants to support those who ought to have fair labor, fair conditions, and fair work environments. At the same token, let's just be truthful, we have a bit of a selfish mentality at times in this country when it comes to, look, can I really compartmentalize if it's going to make me spend more in the end? Do you think, Scott, that American voters will align with that thought?
No, I mean, if the trains stop running, it's everything from food, which you mentioned, goods, like the chlorine they use to treat the water at the water treatment plants. That moves by rail in many cases. I mean, Amtrak, a lot of people take the Amtrak every day. I mean, the implications of this will be felt in every community in America. And so, no, I don't think Americans are going to like that because they're already suffering through massive 40-year high inflation. They just suffered through a summer of very high gas prices. You still go into towns in America where there's labor shortages. People can't find enough workers to keep restaurants and coffee shops open in different places. And so I really do think the American people have been stretched to the brink, and you throw a railroad strike on top of it. I mean, you say that the companies aren't making a good offer. Then why did most of the unions already agree? You've got two holdouts here. I think first of all, I think the Congress could and should act because it really could be a national security issue. But the president here, the guy who says he's the union president, I hope is picking up the phone and telling these holdout unions, you aren't going to strike. You can't do this to this country. For his own political health, he ought to be doing it.
Let me tell you, Senator Dick Durbin today said, I don't think it's likely we're going to intervene. The House Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer, said that Congress would pass legislation if needed. So there's a little bit of a distinction of what might happen. But do you see this? I mean, on the other hand, Scott talks about maybe the pessimism around it. But you know what? On the other hand, it's not as if the union members are not themselves Americans and voters, not themselves taxpayers and thinking about their own rights. I mean, they're as much part electors as everyone else. Is that discounting them?
No, and I'm not sure how this gets solved. To Scott's point, I think these two unions are still holding out of the 12 because they have the leverage right now. They know President Biden can't afford a railroad strike. To the congressman's point, I think that a deadline will help. A strike or a threat of a strike can be an opportunity for a president. Let's think way, way, way back to President Reagan breaking the air traffic controller strike. I don't think this is the same situation. It might be the inverse. To me, it seems a little bit like President Biden might just have to find a way to get these companies to move a little bit toward the unions, make a deal. Just one more quick point that I was going to say was it's what the Biden administration can't afford to do, Congressman, is they can't afford to wait. If there's going to be a vote in Congress, if the leadership is going to force something with the Railroad Act, if the president is going to put his thumb on the scale, they've got to do it by Friday. They can't let it drag
And
out.
tomorrow morning, the White House is already, with Secretary Walsh, convening the parties. A strike is good for no one. It's not good
Right.
for workers. It's not good for the companies. It's not good for the American people. But mistreating workers is something that we have to stand up for. And I think everyone understands if you can't even have unpaid time off to be sick, what kind of a job is that, right? I mean, the companies have just gone too far with too many of the rules have all been in their favor. Finally, this is a time period. That's why at a 60-year high, people's opinion are on behalf of workers. I hope the railroad workers get what they deserve. They should. These companies should come to the table. And at the end of the day, I think this will be a done story. But more workers in this country will have a little more say in their workplace. And that's a very good thing.
I tell you, we'll see what happens on Friday. Nothing like a deadline to make people get to the table, and they are a very important part of our economy, as we've seen. Stick around, everyone. We're going to have a very different kind of labor issue ahead. Have you heard about this thing called quiet quitting?